Kip's back. What a damn postseason. What a postseason, man. Are you having fun, Kip? Good to see you, man. How's it going?
Some good games. It's been some really fun series going on.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite moment or game or anything yet? I mean, obviously we'll get into some Cleveland-ish with you coming up.
Yeah, my favorite moment's not from that series. Not yet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, favorite series right now is the Phillies-Mets one's awesome. Those are some great games. But I think the drama of the San Diego Dodgers one is made for some good TV. So I've been watching that one. That's been fun. Yesterday was kind of boring, but
yeah, it was a blowout.
Get into that.
It was a blowout the other day, though, and that game still had a lot to it. But yeah, this was more of your conventional blowout. So I do want to remind everyone that we have a post-game show this evening after the Royals and the Yankees match up, if Kratz is still my friend by then.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Will you show up?
Yeah.
Even if your team wins or your team loses, and that's a joke because they're both your teams.
Yeah. Every one of my teams is going to win. I'm an AJ Hinch fan and a Tad Brandon fan, so I'm a Tigers fan. I played for Cleveland in the minor leagues, so I'm a Cleveland fan. I went to spring training for the Padres, so they're not playing today. I played for the Yankees and the Royals, so I got house money right. One of my teams is winning.
You should get one of those Rob Lowe MLB hats that he wears, just the MLB logo. I just hope both teams have fun. I
have fear though that I could become the Drake of baseball. Like whatever team I cheer for too hard automatically loses. So
yeah, well, you're winning tonight.
Either that or Hotline Bling. You weren't sure where I was going with that with Drake. So
it happened when you played.
Either way, your team's winning tonight.
I'll check my rings. I don't seem to have left them around here. I'll get them for you next time you're on, okay?
Got to keep them handy. All right, before we get into the Mets-Phillies series, on a serious note, we are thinking about those affected by hurricane damage in the state of Florida. Been checking in on the storm yesterday with friends, family, our own FT fam, including AJ Przinsky. House and fam are okay, so all good news there. You know, he is off today to deal with all of that, but I think we'll get AJ back either Friday or Monday. So just want to say we're thinking about everyone. This was a super scary scene. We posted this and shout out to B. Clems for showing this video. And then we posted this on the Foul Territory Twitter feed. That looks like a Tropicana field annihilated, Kip. And that was where they were initially going to house people that were going to help out in the community. I think first responders or some type of helpers, right? Obviously, I'm sure they got out of there.
It was a storm shelter. Yeah, I was going to say they got out of there with enough advance where nobody was caught in it. Is that what we're saying? That's what we've heard? Good.
Yeah, everyone's okay from there. I guess they got out of there after realizing, initially that it was starting to tear. Wait, put that back up just for 1 sec. So that's Mark Topkin, who's the most plugged in down there with the Rays for years. Tampa Bay Times, by the way, got destroyed by like a crane. Just crazy crap going on down there. But he said that Tropicana Field is made of 6 acres of translucent Teflon-coated fiberglass, the top there, and it supports itself with 180 miles of cables connected by struts per the team media guide. And it was built to withstand winds of up to 115 miles an hour. Now, it was built a long time ago, decades ago. So maybe it was built to withstand that back then. But my girlfriend was like, that looks like paper mache on the top of a ballpark.
It looked like an apocalypse scene, like a post-apocalypse. It's just scary. You just hope everybody got to safety. Yeah. A fun side of it, though, as a player, a former player now, and Kratz can attest to this too. It's like you're not mad that there's no white ceiling anymore. I can't tell you how many pop-ups they get lost in this white sea. Kratz is shaking his head, he knows, and so the baseball side of it, we hope everybody's safe and the destruction's not too much. But the fun baseball side of it, it's like you got tired of losing fly balls, the white ball and the white ceiling. So maybe there's a change coming.
Why'd they do that?
I don't know the background or the history of the making of Tropicana.
Architect wasn't a baseball fan.
sun kind of get through a little bit? I mean, they're not looking to grow grass or anything like that. I don't. It was unique and cool, but zero applicability. And if somebody goes back and watches it on our Twitter feed, we had that video. All those things you see on the field are cots. Like that's where people were going to sleep. That's where it was a shelter, and it was not a shelter anymore. They said the winds only got up to 101 miles per hour. It was supposed to withstand 115. It's scary to me. It's scary to me when winds in a big storm, not a tornado, not like a single instance, winds that hard can just tear a roof off a place. Whew.
But behind the scenes, Claudia, our producer, goes, Architect's next project, Vegas ballpark. You joke, but I was actually going to mention this real quick. So I was listening to an interview with Dave Cobble, who is the president of the Oakland A's for a long time now and is a total stooge. I mean, he's just ridiculous when you listen to him. So I just wanted to hear how ridiculous the interview was. I can never get enough of all that BS. But he mentioned that. He's like, it's funny. The architect we hired knew nothing about baseball, had never been to a game in his life. I'm like, oh, great. Good job, guys. He's like, yeah, we wanted that. We wanted to bring something different. That is real. I guess he had gone to a game maybe since, so they could at least tell him what a baseball is and stuff like that. But they're hiring someone with zero baseball knowledge who is from overseas to construct that ballpark. So players beware. I'm sure mistakes will be made. That is so Oakland, right? Like, wouldn't you hire an architecture firm that knows what they're doing with a baseball park? Even if you want it to be different, tell them you want it to be different. They're creative. He's like, nah. I'm going to go outside the box and get someone that doesn't know crap about baseball. So that is real. I heard it. It was a recent interview from the past 72 hours. Anyway, let's talk about games before we get everyone pissed. Charge the Mound time.
Charging the Mound.
We'll get into the Phillies in a little bit, the postmortem, but let's start with the New York Metropolitans. Kip, look at this team go. And they've been good for a long time now. Since June, they've basically been the best team in baseball if you're going off record. This high payroll team that is living up to expectations. The weird thing is expectations were not that high this year, and a lot had to do with the pitching. And of course, Francisco Lindor hit the grand slam of that ballpark's history, and they've celebrated there now for the first time in that ballpark's 16-year history, popping bottles for a postseason clinch. What did you think of that one?
What a fun game. This had to be kind of what Steve Cohen and the other guys had envisioned when they signed Lindor, when they brought in guys like Marte and kept Pete around. Like some of this has to be the way that they're playing. It looks like it's all coming together. You got Diaz back at the end, had the injury last year. So it's really fun. They are playing a fun brand of baseball. They have that whiff of Team of Destiny going on right now, where it's just like the Alonso home run in Milwaukee, the way they ended the season to make it into the playoffs with the last few games versus Atlanta and stuff like that. So they are one of the more exciting teams left, and they certainly are playing that way. And they took down a very good team in Philadelphia who's got to be disappointed.
I mean, did Lonnie Chisenhall get hit before Lindor hit that grand slam? Did he get hit? Did he get hit on the nom?
I think.
Oh wait, no, that was 2017.
True.
In the ALDS.
You're saying, go ahead, explain more, but he's done this before.
Finish your thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
Lonnie Chisenhall, check swing, hit his knob, went to first base to load the bases, didn't review it. Sorry, Webby. Sorry, Brett Weber, didn't review it. Next batter, Francisco Lindor, almost broke Progressive Field. He almost broke Citi Field last night with that grand slam.
Were you catching?
No. El Gary was.
Oh.
I was in the pen.
Oh, okay. But so you had a good view of it then.
I had a great view of it. And it wasn't my fault, so I can totally deflect. But it was this team, like we're going to talk about the Tigers later because they have a game tonight.
Yeah.
This is not the Tigers. The Mets are not the Tigers. The Tigers, like, this is the team of destiny. Sorry, Mets. It's okay. I'm saying that because the Mets are better than the Tigers. The Mets just beat a really good team, and they never had to scratch the itch of their bullpen that doesn't really throw well. I know Mets fans will say, oh, Diaz, like he was walking guys. Yeah, he had some big misses. Like that was scary in the ninth inning if you're a Mets fan. But if your 3 or 4 bullpen guys are the only ones that ever throw and you never have to get to the – like it's a positive outcome for the Mets if they don't have to get to their weaker end of the bullpen. and their lineup beat, for what was for 4/5 of the season, one of the best bullpens in the game in the Phillies. This team is not just playing well and they're hot. They are a good team, and they are solid up and down this lineup.
They're believing.
Yeah, and Kip, they're beating up good relievers too. I mean, they got to Raisel Iglesias, right, back with the Braves during that doubleheader day to secure a playoff spot. Their season doesn't happen without that Pete Alonso homer against Devin Williams, right? And that is a very unlikely result on a matchup. And then you've got game one where Wheeler dominates and they get to 2 all-star relievers. I mean, it just keeps adding up here, right? Yesterday, I'm in the group chat with the friends and the fam, and they're like, this is such a game that we lose. Ranger Suarez is letting dudes on. I think at one point through the first, 2 innings, he doesn't give up a run after 4 hits and 2 walks, which had never happened in a playoff game. I mean, it was all adding up where they weren't capitalizing because, I mean, they were putting traffic on all over and they couldn't score a damn run. But they have these late surges. They don't give a crap about relievers.
No, then they've been doing it, like you said, against some really good ones too. I mean, just even the Lindor swing right there was 99, almost like middle away. And it's just they look like they have their approaches down. They look like they're confident in what they're trying to do. Their team approach, they're all bought into it. It looks really like a fun dugout right now. And it's what a difference a year can make, right? Because everybody remembers a year ago when we were talking, or whenever it was, where it's like nobody was stepping up to lead. And I had that comments with Lindor and whoever it came out where it's like, you're gonna get told you're playing bad if you're losing and not showing up and nobody's stepping up. The flip side is you're going to get your flowers when you start playing like this. And Lindor looks like he's stepping up, being the leader that they expected him to be. He's playing awesome. And I loved how calm and like collected he ran around the bases too. Like it wasn't normally I would have been shouting and jumping up and down if I had a moment like that. I mean, absolutely. The moment of it was huge. And he was just a cool cat running around those bases. So you might get a little few comments when you're not playing well, but the good thing is you get your flowers when you're playing great, and he's leading that team right now, and they're going to get a few days to rest here, and they are exciting bunch right now. So it's fun baseball games. They've been playing in a lot. They've been one of the more fun teams to follow throughout all of this.
I want to cap it with the facet of the team that I continue to be wowed with, and that's the starting pitching. I mean, look at their starting staff. And they added in the offseason, right? They added Sean Manaea, they added Luis Severino, and you're like, okay, that's cute. They're doing that just so that they can be competitive during their transition year, which is what they told Verlander and Scherzer last year when they traded him away. Remember, Kratz, last year, they talked Verlander and Scherzer into waiving their no-trade clause so that they could sell them away and get some prospects. And I questioned it. I was like, are they really not trying to compete next year? Well, they're competing because now they're in the NLCS. So they did talk those guys into leaving, but what they've done with these starters continues to freaking wow me. I mean, the Phillies are supposed to be good against left-handed pitching. Look what Sean Manaea did. And now, okay, Quintana's not a big stuff guy, and he looked like a freaking ace for them. I mean, they've got 5-6 starters in that staff right now that you trust in a big game.
I'm not even going to either of those two guys. David Peterson owned the Phillies. When he came in, that was his Madison Bumgarner moment of 2014. Like, Phillies were not going to touch him. He has owned the Phillies. And if you go up and look at his numbers since he was called up from AAA, not from the whole season, from AAA, he has been a huge piece to this team. A huge piece. So awesome for him because he was kind of cast off when they go out and get Verlander and Scherzer. Hey, we're going to be here. You're going to be there. Nope, sorry, you're in AAA. You didn't do well in your few starts. He has been that guy when you talk about depth. He has been that depth guy for them because the signings were Manaea, his arm changed then, and Severino, will he stay healthy? Oh, he has. That's unbelievable. Senga's down. David Peterson has really brought that team together. I love how their starters are all together, the eye black and everything on start day. Love it.
Last thing, and then I want to also promote, I'll do it right now, Metsed Up, the podcast. Obviously, if you want to check out that show, part of the FT Network, this is a good time for it. Those guys are freaking out and give you really good in-depth analysis on what's going on with the Mets. They cover the team every year. Every game. They've watched every single inning all year long. So check out that pod. Give it a little QR code smash here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your pods. And Jeff McNeil is likely going to be on the roster for the next round, or at least that's what they're saying. So, he's been out for a minute and he's working his way back. I think he's got rehab games this weekend in the Arizona Fall League. And that's a nice little contact bat to add to the mix for the team, who was hitting well in the second half too. He wasn't hitting, for a good chunk of last year, first half of this year. And then he switched some things up and putting a little lift on the baseball, hitting the ball harder, and it was working for him. So on the other side, the Philadelphia Phillies. We got a show for that, but we also have one of the hosts of that show, Ruben Amaro Jr., in the green room waiting. Therapy sesh. FT fam, this episode is presented by Viore. So make sure you go over to viore.com/FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. That is real. I'm going to let Kip give us a few seconds on his love for the brand when we told him we were partnering up.
That was probably the most exciting news I've gotten from you in a while. That was my best text. I love the stuff. It's about as soft as this, like, butter cloth that they use is just the best. Like when you're just around the house, any athletic thing you want to do, lounging or working out, I think that's the go-to right now.
That's me.
Taking over.
That's me today.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Soft?
Nice color.
Oh, the jersey, not soft. Okay.
Look at the way the lighting. I'm getting that natural light hitting the Viore colors that are so unique. A little performance wear. You can go hit the gym right after this, but this is an FT shirt right here. This is what you wear for a show. Nice and comfy.
I love it. You look comfy.
Thank you.
Looks
Thank
great.
you. All right. So make sure you go to the code Viore.com/FOUL, 20% off your first purchase, and also free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on the planet at Viore.com/FOUL. Be right back. All right. Well, this segment is also running on national television on Valley Sports TV, so we'll do our best. But I mean, good luck to Ruben Amaro Jr. to keep it clean here, as one of the hosts of the Phillies show joins us right now. The former GM, former player, the whole deal, and big star on the Phillies show. Make sure you check out that show. More on that coming up in just a sec. But what the heck happened? Not just in this Game 4, Ruben, but in this postseason for Philadelphia. Like, what's the one thing that you'll truly remember from this 2024 postseason from the Phillies letdown?
Well, I think it was sort of a culmination of what was been happening for the second half of the season. I mean, that the guys just did not swing the bats the way you would expect them to. You know, I know there's a lot of streaky hitters and a lot of really accomplished hitters in this lineup, but you thought, and I thought that it was probably the deepest team in all of baseball as far as just overall talent. But when it comes right down to it, I mean, the second half of the season and in through the postseason, they just were very vulnerable. They were exploitable. And, the Mets in this series, they just absolutely exploited them. They outplayed them. And, you got to give the Mets some credit. And you also have to give some fault to the Phillies because they just couldn't make the adjustments that were necessary. Clearly, I thought one of the strengths or a couple of the strengths was their offense and the bullpen, and they ended up being detriments to them. They just did not obviously, the bullpen did not perform very well at all, really struggled. And the guys just did not swing the bats at all. It was just not a great overall team effort as far as being able to have quality at bats, purposeful outs, purposeful at bats. It didn't happen. And when you get a streaky team like that where the streaks were going south pretty much across the board, other than maybe Castellanos and a little bit of Harper, that makes it very, very tough to have success.
Okay, so you said two of the strengths of the Phillies team, and we get this right, were bullpen and hitting and their lineup, and their starting pitching wasn't one of the strengths?
Well, no, it certainly was one of theirs, no doubt. I mean, and obviously in the first half of the season it was the best starting staff in all of baseball. And obviously having, Wheeler, Sanchez, and Nola as their three, and then, you just didn't know what you were going to get out of Ranger Suarez, who ended up doing a pretty good high wire act yesterday to try to keep the Phillies into that game. I mean, that is a strength, obviously, for the club, and probably the biggest strength in the first part of the season. They had some issues with Ranger, having some struggles, but the starting pitching was always something that was pretty steady for them. And coming into the series, you thought that they would have the edge in a couple different areas, but they didn't have the edge on the mojo because the Mets had the mojo working. They were committed to putting together quality at bats. They got the 2-out hits that are so huge in the postseason. You look at all the really good postseason teams, you get the 2-out RBIs, the 2-out hits, the back-breaking RBIs. That's exactly what the Mets have been doing, and have been doing it for the last few weeks.
Well, the Phillies crowd is almost like a mojo in itself. Anytime you play in front of that crowd in the postseason, it looks like it's the craziest place to play. I'm going to have you put your GM cap back on because it looks like this team was assembled to make the run. Obviously, it fell short right now. The pieces are there. If you put the GM cap back on, where do you go from here? What would be your next move? How do you treat this offseason?
Yeah, as I said, I think there's so many streaky type hitters, Kip, that to me it's you have Turner, who's a pretty streaky hitter. You have Castellanos, who's a streaky hitter, although he did sort of carry them for the second half of the year. Schwarber can be streaky. There's a lot of guys, and even Real Muto, who really struggled in the playoffs. I mean, you have some streaky hitters there. You don't have great contact hitters, although Alec Bohm should have been one of those guys. In the second half of the season after the All-Star game, he just really wasn't that guy, and he hurt his hand, and I think that probably affected him a little bit. So that gap-to-gap hitter, that guy that's going to put the ball in play, the guy that's not going to swing out of the strike zone, they need a couple of those guys to put the ball in play. I thought that they would have that in Marsh and Stott and those kind of guys. They didn't get it done. And I was just surprised that they did not move forward. Some of those guys didn't move forward, Marsh and Stott in particular. I was a little surprised by the fact that a guy like Trey Turner, who's a tremendous offensive player and really accomplished, he's more of a hacker and a slasher. He doesn't walk very much. He's not a guy that's an on-base guy. And what you ended up seeing is a lot of guys, their swing decisions weren't very good. They need people in that lineup, particularly in the outfield, maybe left field and center field, where and I think that's where you can probably make the most hay as far as offense is concerned. They need some guys who can put together some quality at-bats where they're grinding out the at-bats and making contact and, making not just like that quality base hit or quality at-bat, but the quality out too, right? That, situational hat. They could not string together enough base hits. It's a team that's sort of built on slug. And if you're not slugging, then you're sort of dead in the water. And that's sort of what happened with the Phillies.
Is it possible that they trade from the quality? Not trade from, Philly fans are going to be, somehow somebody's going to call up radio WIP and be like, well, you know why we lost is because we got to trade Taijuan Walker. I've never liked Taijuan Walker. Like, is it possible that they trade from some of this, like a Nick Castellanos to bolster, a different spot? Because Nick's a big part. I disagree. I mean, I understand he chases, and you see it every day. You can feel like it's streaky, but he did, like you said, he carried this team. Could they trade from that depth, or are they like, hey, we're running this back, and we're just going to get luckier in the postseason?
They're not running us back, Kratzy. They're not going to do that. I know John Middleton and I know Dave Dombrowski, and they want that damn trophy back. And I will tell you that they will make some moves. Dave Dombrowski's not afraid to make some moves now, and he's a very smart baseball man. He's a future Hall of Famer. I think that they're they're gung ho on making sure that even though they still have the window open, I think that there's still going to be real productive years for a lot of the guys we talked about. But it's going to start to excuse me, it's going to start to close a little bit, and so they're going to have to surround them with the right pieces. I think in the bullpen, it's sort of a crapshoot. What they're going to do back there, I think it'd be great for them to get a lockdown closer. I don't know if they can do that. But I would not be surprised. I wouldn't put anything past Dave Dombrowski. If he has to trade Alec Boehm or Bryson Stott or somebody from even their big league team to gain an area somewhere else, maybe a Castellanos. I don't know. But I know that he's going to be creative, and I know he's going to try to do whatever he needs to do to revamp this or retool it, not rebuild it, but retool this team to get it to the point where it's not just a great team for the season, but a great team for the playoffs and beyond.
All right. You lived it. I lived it. Game 5, 2011. Was this a tougher season?
Why are you reminding me?
Because it's the day afterwards. And I remember you coming into the locker room after we lost Game 5, 1-0 to Chris Carpenter, and Doc threw an unbelievable. It was an epic game. Howie's in the training room with his torn Achilles tendon. Like, is this losing this game? Is it tougher, or was there more expectations from that team who had 102 wins that year? And I think we lost 8 in a row in September after we clinched.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not in the same position broadcasting, and I'm an analyst, so it's a little different. I mean, it really hurt me. I actually, believe it or not, and I didn't really, until a couple of days later, really felt the impact of that in 2011. I was really, at that time, honestly, I was really concerned about Ryan Howard. I was really concerned because I knew, after having talked to our trainer, Scott Sheridan, at the time, I mean, it was going to be his Achilles, and that was a really, really big deal. And it impacted him the rest of his career because he never really became, the player that he was. So I was really concerned about him at that time. And then later on, I felt the impact. Yeah, it was hurtful. I thought the 2011 team was the best team that I remember. And I was fortunate to be a part of that and help assemble it. But it's hard to gauge. I mean, obviously the expectation, because they won the NL East for the first time in 11 or 12 years or 13 years, because they got to the point where, they had, the big boys, they had the Harpers and they had the Turners and they had the Schwarbers of the world. And Wheeler was, best pitcher in baseball and had a pretty darn good, bullpen going in. I mean, you had all the right quote unquote pieces to win, and the expectation was to win this year, and they were hell bent on doing that. But it's a crushing blow to the Philadelphia fan base and certainly to the Philadelphia fans. There's a similar feeling. I do believe that this group, I think that they're not as old as that old group. I think they're healthier than the group in 2011. Obviously, Doc Halladay struggled after that, health-wise. Chase Utley struggled with his knees, and then you had Ryan Howard. You lose 3 very, very big pieces, and it ended up impacting 2012 Phillies and beyond. But I think this is a healthier team, and I think it's still poised. I think the window's open for them. And I think they have an ability to add to the pieces that they have and the core that they have. But they're going to have to be awfully smart about how to do it. And I think Dave Dombrowski is the right guy to do that. He knows how to get it done.
All right, so this is going to get talked about. I haven't heard a ton about this topic yet, but maybe you have locally. So the Phillies won the division and they got the bye week. I'm not even talking about cold bats necessarily because they scored a bunch of runs in game 2. For me, it's more of a advantage versus neutrality, right? Do they have enough of an advantage for winning a division, going through that entire season, and then, of course, running into a hot team? That's part of it. But do you feel like the format is set up for those teams to succeed because they should be rewarded for that? And yes, Kratz is going to make the case, and I'm not going against this, that, hey, you don't want to play in a wild card round and, get knocked out for losing 2 games in a row. But Phillies go down. Cleveland's on a potential brink of elimination. The Dodgers could get eliminated. The Yankees are in good shape right now. But for example, if we have 3 out of those 4 teams that got the bye get bounced, I mean, fans are going to unload all offseason and say, you've got to switch this. What do you think?
I think it's different for every team, honestly, Scott. I think it's one of those things where I think for the Phillies, I think it impacted them in a way that for the relievers, because they had the types of relievers in Hoffman and Alvarado and Strom and Kerkering, those guys needed to be on the mound to keep their deliveries, to have the success that they had. I think they have a little bit complicated deliveries, and their stuff sort of lends itself to having to sort of play every day and pitch every day. And I think that's one of the reasons why they really struggled. And they had that delay, that 4 or 5 day delay. And I don't think that the fact that they didn't pitch during that time and they didn't pitch in competition during that time, I think that affected them. I don't think it affects them as much with the offense. It's an easy excuse. I think the format's okay. I mean, you have to. I didn't like the 1-game playoff. I think the 3-game playoff is much better. I think it's more fair, and the fact that they do it in the top seeds home place, I think that was a very good idea. I just didn't think it was fair for for a team that makes it to the postseason to be one and done. I think other people probably think differently, but I like the format the way it is, and I think it's just a matter of more circumstance than anything else. And again, I think it affects different teams different ways. And in the Phillies' case, I think it affected their bullpen more than anybody else.
Were you at the games in Citi Field?
I was not at the games in Citi Field. I was doing pre and post from the beautiful Wells Fargo Center.
Could the Phillies fans have brought more at Citizens Bank Park? I know the game was, it was 1-0 up until they took Wheeler out, so they didn't have a ton to quote cheer about. But they were watching, to me, one of the most dominant pitching performances by a starting pitcher. He had 30 swings and misses in 108 or 111 pitches. That is elite, and everybody will forget about it. Could the Phillies fans have brought a little bit more at Citizens Bank?
I think that they were pretty loud there, man. That's a tough place to play obviously the Mets didn't get affected by it, but listen, one of the things that the Phillies didn't do, and they did this really, really well in the beginning of the season, they scored early and then they scored late. They continued to score, and with the Mets the way they are right now, man, if you give them a chance, I said it in the game yesterday. If you leave this game 1-0, the Mets will win this game. And I actually told the guys in the studio, if it was after the 6th inning and it was still a 1-0 game, then the Mets would win. And sure enough, in the bottom of the 6th, home run, Lindor after, Jeff Hoffman had his struggles and they had to bring Estevez in. I believe that the Philly fans were really aggressive. They were great. But the Phillies have to sort of create the energy a little bit too. They, had the home run by Schwarber early in that first game. And, I mean, you're right. I mean, Wheeler is just a stud. He is the best and the one pitcher that I would want to pitch in a game to win a baseball game. And you're right. He had an historic game. They just needed to back him a little bit more. Just add on, figure out a way just to get one more run. And I think that would have put them away. And they just couldn't do it, and the Mets hung in there and beat them up. I think the fans were into it, but I think that also the Phillies, they sort of, I think they started to feel the weight of the expectation. They weren't playing free and easy like the Mets were. Mets were playing with house money, man. They were playing with freely and easy. You've talked to Charlie Manuel about this. you can't play if you're tight. You got to play free and easy, and I don't think the Phillies played free and easy baseball.
That's a good way to put it. And if you want more on this therapy session and you're watching this right now, whether you're live or clipped afterward, there's a really good show that covers all of this and goes deep. So it's Ruben, it's Jim Salisbury, it's Todd Zalecki. Go tell him, Ruben, give me your 10 seconds on. And there's Charles Barkley, who's not on every show. He's just on one, but he'd be pretty pissed right now too. But the Philly show is going to have an off season, huh?
Yeah, we sure are. I mean, we're going to be on there, have some more guests like Charles and others. I think we're working on Jason Kelsey right now, who's pretty famous in these days in these parts.
Yeah.
But really enjoyed being with Jim Salisbury, a super accomplished writer for years and years. Todd Zalecki, who's an MLB.com writer. Guys who actually not only understand the game and know the game, but they love the game. They really love baseball, and it's fun to be with those guys and talk baseball with them with a very, very passionate Philly fan base. So we'll be going all year, all off season, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about after the struggles they had here in the postseason.
Yeah, mailbag, Q&A, all of that. Whatever you want to know. They'll talk about off-season plans once we figure everything out after the World Series ends. So, Ruben, thank you very much. Appreciate the time, dude. We'll chat soon, okay?
Great to be with you guys, okay? Have the great rest of the postseason.
Thank you. Appreciate you, Ruben. Ruben Amaro Jr. with us from the Philly show, from everything else, and we'll be right back. All right, we can show this Alex Wood tweet. I actually got into this tweet because I saw someone post something else about Alex basically saying there were no poor teams, because someone was like, look, even like the low payroll teams can do damage in the playoffs. And he was like, there's no poor teams, whatever. I was looking for the tweet. I couldn't find it. So anyway, I'm searching through his Twitter and I'm like, oh, that's a good one. So we could show it. He basically said he saw Shohei Ohtani swing and Happy Gilmore, which I think the second one's coming out soon, by the way. And he was like, I can't unsee this. Do you see any similarities between the way that Ohtani, especially for a low ball, smashes a homer and the way Happy smashes a golf ball?
Kind of.
Yeah. That's good. Besides him being right-handed, I like that. I like that.
Getting through the
and
ball.
There's a second Happy Gilmore?
Yeah, there's a second one coming up. I was actually at a country club for a wedding this past weekend where they were filming some scenes, and they had a huge grandstand, and on it said like whatever opened 2004. So I think they were filming flashbacks there.
The Waterbury Open?
Is that what it was called?
Yes.
Waterbury
Open. I mean,
I thought, wasn't the big one though like the US Open or something like that?
No.
He didn't make it to some later.
Shooter's going to choke. Green jacket's yours. Shooter's going to choke.
Well, whatever it was, I saw 2004 for whatever tournament. So I'm like, okay. But they said they were filming there. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll stay
rumors about who's going to have cameos in it and certain parts. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Kip, I hope Tiger's in there.
What's your go-to line
from
Happy Gilmore?
Oh my God, I don't know. There's probably swears in it. Whether it's
you can do it now. You can swear right now for 30 seconds.
I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. There's the lady. There's so many. The whole movie's quotable.
The Mr. Lady. You killed the Mr. Lady.
Yeah.
Frankenstein's fat foot.
Yeah.
Any lines that we forgot, let us know in the chat right now. And then we're going to go over the Dodgers-Padres Game 4 and spin it to Game 5. And then we'll get to still the Tigers and Guardians and the Yanks and the Royals.
Brandon Geyer was definitely him in the cage. 364 more days to the next hockey season.
Here we go. So, we're going to get Hunter Pence in about 2 minutes. So we'll get into that. You know what? So we'll get to the games when we have a little bit more time, because Hunter's coming up soon. Let's just get Kip's take real quick before we ask Hunter about this. What do you think about Buster Posey taking over the San Francisco Giants president of baseball operations role? Were you surprised to see that? Like I was. Not that he couldn't handle the job or that he wouldn't do it in the future, but he called it quits when he still probably had something left in the tank to get some more time off the field. There is nothing more time consuming than a president of baseball operations job. That is a 24/7 work all but 2 hours of a Thanksgiving meal job.
Some guys go home and they want to get right back out to the baseball schedule and the timeline. I don't know. I mean, obviously he's beloved there in San Fran. I think catchers always fare well after post career. Erik can attest to that. Whether it's whatever they're doing, they know the game so well back and forth. So like whether they make great managers or top of the line, I don't know, GMs or whatever it may be. So my only worry is just not having any experience of the position or worked his way up in the field at all beforehand. I'm sure that's the worry of most. But in terms of knowing the game of baseball and being able to spot talent and what to look for, he's got a fantastic outside for that.
Well, let's see what his buddy has to say about it. Hunter Pence joining us right now, longtime former San Francisco Giant, among other ball clubs. Hunter, great to see you, dude. How's everything going? And are you going to be working with Buster?
We'll see. He's only shot me small text messages here and there. But, to Kipnis' point, a lot of people are like, yeah, what makes him qualified? But, he knows, and he's been a part, and you know this, Kipnis, when you're in it that hard and for so long, you just learn so much of what's going on the inside and what it takes to, because it's not just the players, even though the players are who you need to really lift up because they're the ultimate ones, but it takes like everyone. And we really felt that kind of synergy with the Sabian Boch era. And Buster definitely was one of the greatest leaders that was able to kind of lift everyone up by, like, he had his eye on everyone. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever played with, but he knows where to delegate, right? Like the kind of the front office side of things, he's looking to hire someone that does have that experience. And even with the Boch era, the greatest thing about him is he allowed everyone to he trusted them to do their thing. And, it all was kind of a circle, you think of like the round table or whatever. And then he was like the final answer if there was like a big discrepancy. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts. And I think Kipnis does make a great point.
So if he's good at all those things, what kind of role could you play there? What is it that you actually would do there if you would, because Buster texted me and he said, can you ask Hunter if he wants a job? So I'm asking you for Buster on the show. But because when he got the job, I said a lot of GMs and president of baseball operations, they go out and get the best players. They evaluate the talent based on what their scouts say. To me, I said, I think the talent that he has is to evaluate what works as a cohesive unit.
Yes.
So if you keep bringing in Hunter Pence, who brings everybody together, and then you bring in Buster Posey, who brings everybody together, is there still that piece missing, or do they need somebody and it's going to be that analytic push to actually get good players and not just great dudes together?
Yeah, you're going to need all of it, right? Even with regards to great teams, it's not everyone is completely different. It's many walks of backgrounds, belief systems. There's crazy people. You think of me in particular and Pablo and Romos, but then there's also the really straight edge, the Busters, the Crawfords, the Panics, or whoever. So it takes a little bit of all types of personalities, but I think it's a great point. And I think Buster gets this, that you're going to not need yes man around you. You need people with differing views, and you need to kind of hear it all and bring it all together. I think one of the coolest things is I got to play with one of our scouts who's been with us for a long time, and he was saying all the Giant scouts were pretty excited when you listen to his press conference of how much he's going to need to get those relationships going and let them know their impact and get we got to do better in the scouting department. And so I think a lot of the scouts were very excited to get that connection going and really kind of broaden a little bit of everything. You need the analytics. You also need the people. You need Bob Melvin making the lineup because he's the one who has the pulse. And I think Buster gets that, is the manager has better feel than someone, just kind of watching from television. not to say, but I do think that you need to trust. If you hire your manager, you need to trust that he knows the lineup that needs to be there, and y'all need to be. Sabian and Boch would be at the field till 4 a.m. discussing things, and they definitely butted heads, but like they got to the bottom of things. So you're right about it. There's nothing more time consuming than doing this job right. I think Buster just loves the organization. You become a part of the fabric, and he believes that he can do this, and I believe he can do this. So he wants to see the city lifted up, and the way that we're watching San Diego go off. We're watching all of these, a baseball team going to the playoffs is a massive change to your community.
Are you surprised? You're involved with the organization. Are you surprised anything from the spectrum of Buster taking the job, which is going to it's going to be a lot of time because he's a family man. He loves being around his kids and his wife, even to the point of Farhan getting fired? Like, are you surprised at any of those things that they happened?
Well, I am surprised that, like, obviously I think that this is a huge win for San Francisco. And I'm probably, this, Kratz, I'm ultra optimistic, but I genuinely and deeply believe in Buster's ability to do this. I'm excited for it as a fan, as a lover of the San Francisco Giants and a lover of baseball. I think it's going to be so fun to watch him work and to give him a window of time to see what he builds. And who knows how he's going to shape and change the game. We saw what, happened with the Rangers with Chris Young, a longtime player, a great leader, and a World Series champion player late in his career, leads the Rangers to their first ever World Series. So, it's going to be very entertaining to follow what he does. But the fact that he committed that much time, because he already has everything. He's doing this because he wants to do it, because he cares. And so that is really exciting. The Farhan thing, I feel, he is extremely smart. I think he's going to land on his feet. It sucks to see the way that it turned out, because I think that he did a lot of the things that everyone was asking for. He hired kind of an old school manager. If you looked at our roster going into the playoffs, and honestly, the way we were playing at the end of the season, we swept the Royals when they needed to win. We beat the Orioles 2 out of 3 when they needed to win. We knocked the Diamondbacks out of the playoffs. The last month of the season, we were the team that you would have expected to see out of spring training, because you're looking at Snell, you're looking at Robbie Ray, Logan Webb, Alex Cobb. Like, they're coming back in the back end. Doval obviously didn't have his season. He lost his command, but we had Ryan Walker step up, and we had a lot of young players. But when you looked at, like, adding Matt Chapman, the roster that he put together, and granted he did it in his Farhan way, he got these small deals with Chapman and Snell, it was easy to be like, when we get into the playoffs, we are World Series contenders. And it didn't happen, and it didn't all come together until we, like, knocked ourselves out of the playoffs. So I do feel bad for Farhan. I know he's going to land on his feet because I think he has a brilliant baseball mind. It just didn't work out here.
Kip, you up?
No doubt.
We're trying to think. I'm just going through this list right here, because you just kind of answered 2 of the 3 questions I was about to ask anyways about this roster. It was structured and everything about it. We asked Amaro last on about what happens now. So what happens now then for this offseason, and what would you change? What would you make moves for? Because you've committed a decent amount of money to a good amount of players. So where do you find the pieces to kind of fill out these holes?
I think if you're looking at the Giants, I know that one of their prime things they're looking for is either a shortstop or second baseman, because Tyler Fitzgerald, they feel like, can play either one. With what happened with Estrada this year, and he had done so good for so long, and we had this, he kept getting injured on the brink, and it just, this year was like, who knows what happened, and maybe he'll pop back up, but I think they're going to look to do that. You're going to need to fill the gap of a Blake Snell, because obviously, Buster's intentions are to be a World Series contender quickly, and we have a window. If you're looking at what Hayden Birdsong and how he finished and the talent, this kid's 21. It was like Lincecum type amount of time in the minor leagues straight to the big leagues, and really, like, if you're going off the metrics and the data, the analytics, like, his breaking stuff is through the charts. His fastball, it's 97. He has the power, but the lane that he's throwing in is one that hitters see very well, and the numbers show that. So it's a small adjustment, and this kid is definitely a cornerstone. So there's a window for the Giants to get there. They're kind of on the cusp. And I think you get a second baseman. You seal up. The bullpen was really strong. You got to figure out something with Doval to get him back on board, and you got to get one of the big starting pitchers. And I think with that, the core with what Ramos did this year, you look at Fitzgerald to continue to get better. They have a chance, and honestly, I think they're going to look at first base. I'm not sure what Lamont Wade's situation is. But Alonso being out there is someone that I definitely think the Giants are interested in. They think it's a good fit, and we'll see what he does the rest of the postseason. So, but I think the number one priority is one big starter and second or shortstop.
All right, so I'm going to get to the playoffs with this transition. So, your three teams were the Giants, of course, the Astros, and the Phillies. For some people alive, those three teams have been probably in the Final Four for their entire lifetime, right? CS appearances for the last X amount of years to see those three teams dominant. And you don't have any of them now left in the dance. So that's my transition to what do you think of the playoffs right now and who's in and who's been knocked out, dude?
I mean, honestly, I think this is something that I would like to hear from all of you, especially Kratz and Kipnis, because y'all played. The playoff format right now is extraordinarily unfair to the 1 and 2 seed. And as a person, like from my experience in the playoffs, the wild card one game was a disadvantage. It's tough to lose your ace and then go have one day and play. But if you take like 5 or 6 days off in baseball, you get out of rhythm. This 1 and 2 seed, they're sitting there. A bye is not good because the teams that are going into the wild card are there's a different emotional jump and a huge leap. Like the first game of the season is this big emotional charge, and then it kind of levels out and you hit this neutral and you go through. A lot of those teams that are in the 1 and 2 seed are like so far ahead that they're like playing kind of spring training games. There's no pressure. And then these teams go through a wild card. They battle life and death. They hit that switch of emotion from regular season neutrality to full force, everything on the line. And they just got a badge of honor together. They have another celebration. You got frozen for 6 days. And now you, the lower seed that has built up this repertoire, you're getting confidence and momentum, come in to see them. And this team is just hitting the games that now matter again. So for me, I don't think that this 3-game playoff series is fair to freeze the 1 and 2 seed. So if the Yankees are able to win this series, watch out, because I think they're built great. Their bullpen, and that's what it's going to take, is like absolute overpowering dominant pitching, because the hitters are going to need some time to get their rhythm going. We're seeing what's happening with Judge right now, and hopefully when he gets it, once it clicks for him, it's going to go off. But that Yankees team is my pick to go in the American League, but it's going to be hard. I know they're up 2-1, but it's still going to be tough for them. The Royals team is really, really good. As far as Guardians and Tigers, the Tigers are the team that's fun to watch. I think they're going to finish that series off. And then my other question, if we're going to the National League, obviously what the Mets are doing, this is that, oh my God, and they're a dynamic, multi-dimensional team. They have everything. They hit every nail on the head, clutch hitting, superstars, good at bats, solid at bats up and down, grit, fun, excitement. Their pitching is solid up and down. Manaea is just what a story, what a bunch of performances, has really been electric for them. And then for me, I'm one. This is the question I have with the Padres-Dodgers series, because this is such great baseball. Who do the Dodgers just stick with the bullpen? The Padres are having trouble with their bullpen. Why let them get that early takeoff on one of their starters, which is kind of their Achilles heel right now? So they have the day off. They have a fresh bullpen for the game tomorrow. I would just go with another bullpen day. Hey, hitters, you can't have a game plan. Like, deal with whoever we're going to match up against you, and that could be a lead. So it looks like the Dodgers might be able to get through this Padres series if they do that. I think if they start Yamamoto, it's going to be scary.
Okay. I have one comment and a question for you. So be prepared for my question, because you have to solve baseball with my question. But I appreciate you saying it is really, really hard to not play for 5 or 6 days and then get in at bat in the big leagues. I appreciate you saying that, because that is the landscape of my entire career. So when people look at Baseball Reference, anytime somebody brings that up, I'm like,
it's so hard. It's so hard.
You're making me feel better. I'm not getting 152 games. So you make me feel better, Hunter. So now make me feel better and solve the problem that you just said, because we're not going back. We're not taking games away. That's completely off the board.
I'm all for putting more games in. Play them all at the same time. Like, maybe add one more team in each league, whatever you need to, like, have them all play at the same time. You don't need a bye if you're the number 1 seed. Go play the series. Like,
Then you make the regular season irrelevant.
No, it doesn't, because you play the lower seeds. You get the home field advantage. That stuff matters. It doesn't make the season irrelevant. Like, you want to earn it. You think you think taking a bye is making it better? I know it's a small window of data, but the data shows there's no way that these underdogs should be beating the 1 and 2 seeds at such a high relevancy as we've seen since this has happened. You literally are actually getting punished for being 1 and 2 with regards to how baseball works. Like, it's just putting you at a disadvantage, a major, major disadvantage.
But both season series, the Phillies and the Mets season series, and the Tigers and the Guardians season series, it was 7-6. It's interdivision. Like, they've clearly shown that they're equal teams. So if they would have played 13 games in the postseason, it might have been another 7-6 kind of thing. It's all back and forth. So, but like, until a player, my rebuttal to this is, until a player comes out and says, I don't want that bye. All it is just us talking heads, old heads, analysts, guys who aren't playing currently in the system.
Can I hate to, let me finish your thing. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's it. Until a player comes out and says it, then we can't really.
A player cannot make that excuse. It's an excuse, period. Us on the outside as former players can be like, look, we can scream and be like, look, this is not fair to these teams. We have to make that argument for them. Right? Because as a player, your job is not to make excuses. Your job is to take accountability and ownership of whatever the situation. Obviously I'm a Giants fan, but the Dodgers the last couple of years, there's no way you're telling me that the Diamondbacks should have come and taken them. Like, the Diamondbacks did not play the Dodgers that great last year, like in the regular season. There's like they take them out. There's just so many instances of the Dodgers is probably my biggest one, where they have this insane season. The only team they're out in the first round every single time. And I think that it is kind of this like lack of rhythm. Their offense, everyone can't hit in the postseason. We've seen it with the Yankees. The only team that I think that has actually gone on as the higher seed, like what the Braves did last year, was insane. That team, you thought there's no chance this team is ever losing. And their whole momentum was gone, and the Phillies had won that wild card and just trounced them. It almost seemed like with ease. It looked like they were the bully of the division, where what Ronald Acuna did and Spencer Strider and that season and that team that they had last year, I mean, it's tough to see them get frozen and get dominated. And honestly, I would even argue in 2012, when we played the Tigers and it was Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder, and all these guys, they swept their series in 4 games, and we went 7 with the Cardinals. And the American League was a day ahead of us, so it was basically the same thing. And we came in with so much momentum, right in baseball rhythm. We beat a more talented team. That team had Verlander, Scherzer, Fister having one of the best years ever, with Miguel Cabrera, I think, won the Triple Crown. So we took advantage of them getting frozen through just our series going longer. But that Braves team, the only team that's actually been able to overcome the 1 and 2 seed has been the Astros. And that was when they had such dominant pitching. They played the Mariners 18 innings before they scored a run or something, I believe it was. It was like this crazy game. So I guess for me, there's just the data isn't just Tigers and Guardians. And, it's literally the whole time that this has been here, and also just my baseball knowledge. And this, Kratz. So that's just my argument and my spiel. And it was way too long, but I do feel like we need to find a format where I'm happy with more games, but have them all play at the same time. Don't freeze your 1 and 2 seats for 5 days, because that's not how baseball works.
Okay. I like it. It's going to be a hot topic based on how these results have been, because now it's popping up for years. So, Hunter, we got to jump. This was awesome, dude. I wanted to let you cook a little bit, and you did. So,
yeah, sorry to burn your ears off, but that was a pleasure. Great to see you. Love what you guys are doing.
Same,
always a pleasure.
We love having you on. And yeah, if you don't end up working with Posey, then come on back soon. All right. Either way, come on back soon. But I know Kratz has the inside word on that. Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate that. I got to get a better background. You guys are looking sweet out there, man.
Hey, we got to do this
often. In your life. You got a lot of doors in your life. When you're rich like you, Hunter, you got a lot of doors and different rooms and everything.
At least I can get a background, right? Like, all right.
I'm sure it's nice.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate you, Hunter. Good to see you, dude.
Good dude.
FT fam, this episode is presented by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming, and their newest innovation, which is the Chairman Pro electric foil shaver. Sometimes when you're describing what's the problem?
I feel like I need to take this part over until you do the read, because last night I had no time and I got my Chairman 2.0. Is it Chairman 2.0? Am I saying it right? I got it in the mail.
The Chairman
Pro. I'm sorry. Chairman Pro, got it in the mail, and I'm like, I'm trying this John out. What? Come on. Like,
wait, let me see the dome. Give me the aerial view, the drone view.
Lather up. You got to lather up, and then you got to blade it and go this way. I was just like, answering emails. Dunsky. Oh, I'm hooked. I am sold. If you are follically challenged like me, you need to invest in this. I am so juiced about this, John.
Wow. There you go.
I got to turn my brightness in my computer down. Put the hat back on. There we go.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
A little glare was coming through.
From my head or from my personality?
Both. That's when you know it's good.
Your aura.
That's when you know it's good. So, FT fam, I'll tell you where to go while I give you the rest of this, but FOUL is the code for 20% off plus free shipping when you go to Manscaped's website. So make sure you head over there and get the Chairman Pro today. Experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. 20% off plus free shipping with the code FOUL20 is actually the code FOUL20. 20% off plus free shipping with the code FOUL20. Kratz, of course, talking about the Flex Adjust technology. And then there's even a precision lock on the right side of the bracket that you can hit. And you lock that and the blade head sits firm so you can achieve that precise shave and have, if you're going with the bald look, the baldest head on the planet. But get after it with Manscaped. Here we go. We are going to have Jeff Montgomery join us in just a minute. So I'll do the intro now while he's getting himself set up. Royals broadcaster. He's in the Royals Hall of Fame. He's a former All-Star. He played for double-digit seasons with KC. Kratz, anything else that I'm missing? I mean, you dealt with him when you were in Kansas City. You going to say hi to your friend?
Just so down to earth. Like, you forget that the guy played. You forget that he's in the Hall of Fame. Monty's just like, hey, what's up, guys? And he's great, he's great on the call. I'm so impressed. I really like the Royals organization in general, but he's part of that.
Bring him in. Hopefully he heard all of that. How'd he do?
Hey, Kratzy.
Hey, what's up? And he's got the elite backdrop. Look at that.
I just walked off the golf course 15 minutes ago, so sorry.
How'd you play?
Incredible.
Okay, I played with my wife, so that was good. Well, I didn't play with my wife. My wife played golf with me, but anyway.
Master broadcaster with his words. Yeah, who won?
I'm going to say it was...
she won.
She won.
Nice. There you go. And even if she didn't, she won. She's winning.
That's right.
All right, so Monty, let's get into this series because Kansas City now trails by a game. And do you feel like they have, it's going to be hard for me to get a real answer potentially out of you on this one, but do you really feel like they can come back? And if so, talk us into what the game plan needs to look like for them to slay the Yankees the next couple games.
Yeah, it's going to be a really difficult task for the Royals to, find a way to win these next two baseball games. But certainly they've been in this type of position a few times during the year when people kind of counted about They have not played a must-win game all season long, so this will be their first must-win game here coming up this evening. But certainly all the components are there. They just have not hit the ball well. They have not performed really over the last several weeks in clutch situations the way they did the first 5 months of the year to really put themselves in a position to be playing postseason baseball. And obviously, tremendous turnaround from where everyone thought this team would be and where they were last season. But things came together. A lot of credit to Matt Quatrero and his staff for making those changes, sticking with the guys, really kind of creating that atmosphere where this team can go out and do some things that a lot of people did not expect them to do.
But let's stay with expectations. Didn't they add to this team after the team lost over 100 games? Didn't they add to this team to accomplish this? Or did they not? Or did you feel like the feeling was not, okay, we're adding to this team, soon we'll get to here. Soon we'll be in the playoffs. And so would you be saying that they're surprised they're there?
I think they may be pleasantly surprised. I think everyone who puts a uniform on, I think J.J. Piccolo, the general manager, and the people in the staff felt like the moves they made in the offseason were going to put them in a position to potentially get to here. I don't know they expected to get here in 2024. I heard J.J. Piccolo talk after he signed Seth Lugo and Michael Walk and all the other pieces, the Adam Frazier's and all the other pieces that they brought in from the outside saying, look, we lost 106 games last season. I can't come on the air right now and say that we're going to be a contending team. He said, first, we need to be a competitive team. And after we become a competitive team, at that stage, then let's look at potentially being a contending team. And that's really what happened. And again, I think it happened, I don't know if I say a year ahead of time, but it happened before I think they expected it potentially was going to come to fruition. And certainly it did. And Erik, from playing in this organization, they put all the pieces together when they can. But this team has always struggled mightily getting out of the gate. And unlike Jason, your teams in Cleveland sometimes would struggle early in the season and then get things going the second half of the year. This team got things going really early in the season. It was September that they really struggled. Now, last year, they had a good September. In fact, they had a good second half last year, which I think led a lot of people to believe that maybe with a few additions, they can make some moves and make some progress on where they need to be. But certainly getting out of the gate was a real strong suit for them this year as opposed to many, many years in the history of this organization.
That's certainly always talked about, whether you peak too soon in a season or when do you want to be hitting your stride or how do you want to play your days off and stuff like that. So I'm going to turn the attention to the kind of the must-see TVs of this matchup that's been. It's kind of been Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt Jr. We know Aaron Judge has kind of struggled in the postseason to date and throughout his last couple of years. Whether his break that we're talking about might have had something to do with it, could be. But from an insider's perspective, where you've watched Bobby all year long, does it look like he's trying to do too much? Is he just kind of not letting the game come to him? Or is it just kind of been tough pitching that he's been facing has really kind of held him in check?
Well, Jason, I think it's a little bit difficult to nail that down precisely, but Bobby didn't have the same, I'll say, finish to the year that he had the first 5 months of the year. And I know when Vinny Pasquantino went down, a guy who had 97 RBIs before getting hurt right at the end of August, missed all of September. I think maybe Bobby felt like he had to pick up a little bit of that slack as far as the production is concerned. I think also with Salvador Perez, really the only established RBI guy behind Bobby Witt Jr. in that lineup, I think pitchers maybe pitch Bobby Witt a little bit differently. And now as far as where he is potentially pressing a little bit, I've never had to climb in a batter's box and try to work myself out of what I'll call a slump. Bobby Witt Jr. really never had a slump this season. I think he hit 322 on the year, so he had a tremendous season. But you could just tell that every time he came to the plate, something special might happen, and that just has not been the same consistent feeling here as of late. And I know Aaron Judge and Bobby Witt Jr., those were the storylines coming into the series, and neither one has performed really at those MVP level of production that you would expect from those two players. Either one of them can break loose at any time. If they do, they have the ability to carry their team. So I know the Royals fans certainly hoping for Bobby Witt Jr. to break loose tonight.
Well, they're two of the biggest game changers in the entire league. That's for sure. And you said you've never had to hit yourself out of a slump?
I have not.
I had to do that like once a month during my whole career.
Monty was putting people in slumps.
Yeah.
Closing the games out, making guys feel terrible about themselves. Kid coming out, giving all the saves and everything.
Like to be a pitcher and not have to worry about it.
You see Mookie Betts, 400 swings, he said, to get out of his slump, and it actually worked for him. He's like, I don't know. They were like, does that work? He's like, anyone else have a better idea? And it did work. So I give him credit there. So maybe that's next for Bobby. But let me get to the other side. How much does Kansas City love Jazz Chisholm? Like, do you think that's their number one free agent target 2 years from now when he's a free agent? I will say, all kidding aside, I mean, obviously he threw the quote out there for the Lucky Charm Kansas City Royals, but he has made this series fun, give it a little more pizzazz. And then, after yesterday's game, he said, quote, I ain't ever seen anybody boo a bum. So he's saying he's a big deal. He's getting booed right now. What do you think?
Well, it was amazing the reception that he received when they made the introductions and when he came to the plate. And the stadium, obviously, like any ballpark in postseason, is just electric. And they certainly let him know the displeasure of the comments that he made after the Royals win there in New York in Game 2. But it was pretty interesting to watch how that all unfolded. I'm just glad he didn't hit a home run, because that would have been kind of a little egg in the face.
I have to preface that too. The fact that Royals fans were booing him, like when we played the Giants in the World Series, normally teams that I've seen in the World Series or in playoffs, the whole time they're announcing the other team, the home team fans just boo. Kansas City Royals fans got so loud cheering for their team that you couldn't hear them announce the Giants. So for the Royals fans to boo Jazz, I'm going to say they were pretty pissed. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure they were. I mean, there was no holding back the way that thing unfolded, and really, going back to the 14 series, that was 29 years from postseason appearance in 2000 or in 1985 World Series to 2014 when you guys find a way to win that wild card game going into the postseason. And the ballpark last night reminded me a lot of those games back in 2014 and 15 when the Royals were in both World Series. So certainly the fans had to wait a little bit longer with the wild card series being in Baltimore than the first two games being in New York. But I think they had a lot of fun last night. It was about a 75, 80 degree day. It felt like opening day in October, really. Just the excitement, the expectation, the hopes, and unfortunately the disappointment. Yeah, but it was a good game. It goes all the way really to the last inning of the ball game. So people had a lot of fun last night at the ballpark.
No doubt. I mean, some of the best fans ever. My question for you is: you have 304 career saves. You watch some of these bullpen guys that are throwing. Some of the best bullpen guys right now in the game. Raisel Iglesias gave up a big home run late in the regular season to Lindor. Devin Williams, probably the roll age relief pitcher of the year in the last 2 years for the National League. I guess it's called the Hoffman Award. And Jeff Hoffman, there's guys right now in the postseason that are elite closers, back end of the bullpen guys that are having struggles. What are you seeing from those guys? And is there a trend in the game that we're missing, or is the regular season or the postseason just kind of a coin flip?
I think what happens is there's so much emphasis put on every plate appearance, and I see so many guys that kind of get out of their game a little bit, guys that have really dominant stuff, guys that have the ability to go out and essentially blow hitters away with good stuff in the zone. And when they are pitching behind, oftentimes they get themselves in trouble. And I saw that a lot with the Royals pitchers in New York, all the walks. In fact, they had a lot of walks again last night. I think just the ballpark changes thing, especially in Yankee Stadium. I think the atmosphere and the expectations change things as well. And I think regardless of the level of experience and success that some of the guys have had, I think they have a tendency to get away from their game. Instead of being on that attack mode where you got to go right at hitters, they nibble, they get behind, they put themselves in situations where the hitters can be much more predictable as far as what they're going to get to hit. So that's the little things that I see. And again, it's really difficult to get in someone's mind and understand what they're going through. But things have changed significantly since I pitched. My last season was 1999, so it's been a long time. But now much more specialization, much more preparation, much more information. And I think, again, guys maybe will get away from their strengths and try to pitch to the hitter's weaknesses more than what, say, I did or players of my generation did.
All right, so this one was not on my bingo card from yesterday. Giancarlo Stanton steals his first base in 6 years. And obviously he had a great game overall. I mean, he's been clutch in the playoffs. Got like 12 homers in 30 games in the playoffs. He had 3 hits. He had the other RBI hit. The part, though, that I want to get to, and the difference here is Giancarlo stealing a base and one of the most prolific base runners in the sport not being more aggressive in the 8th inning. We're getting some questions in our chat about Bobby Witt Jr. in the 8th. So I know we talked about his struggles at the plate. Do you think there was a lane for him to try and run earlier in that at-bat in the 8th so that he potentially could have scored in a game where they were scratching and clawing for offense, wind was playing in, the whole deal?
Yeah, I think there were two thinkings going on there with me. One, when Pasquantino was up, and I think Pasquantino may have hit the first pitch, but didn't really give Bobby much of a chance. I think he wanted to leave that first base side open with the left-handed batter up where they have to hold him on. And before I go to number 2, Bobby Witt had a tremendous season with regards to stolen bases in 2023. This year he had a good season, but I think he was thrown out like over a dozen times this year. So he wasn't quite the same base stealer this year. I don't think he felt maybe as comfortable or maybe he's have that mentality that it's almost automatic. I know the pitchers gave a lot more attention to Bobby Witt Jr. this year based on his speed and the stolen base he had last year. So I don't think he felt quite as maybe confident in ripping off that bag yesterday. And then when Salvador Perez came up, I think his thinking is this: hey, if I steal second base, yes, I'm in scoring position, but they're going to walk Salvador Perez, or at least they're going to pitch around him and not give him a chance to drive in a run. I think Bobby Witt Jr. felt like Salvador Perez probably was the best guy to hit a ball in the gap and allow him to score from first base. So I think a lot of things were going on, but probably more than anything, I think Bobby just didn't have that same level of confidence as far as going out and ripping off a base the way that he did maybe last year. He just didn't seem to have that same level of certainty this year, especially during the second half of the season.
All right, Monty, we have a lot of players, ex-players on here, and I have to call you out on a lie. You don't know what it's like to get out of a slump. You've been in a slump for a long time. You're 0 for 2 in your career with a punch-out, so you're still trying to get out of your slump. I hope you don't lose any sleep over it, like Kip and I lost sleep over getting out of a slump. But you are still in a slump, so we just want to make sure, we correct that.
You'll get there.
Well, can I tell you a story on my slump?
Yeah.
So in my career, I pitched in exactly 700 games. 699 of those games were in relief. I had one start. It was in Dodger Stadium. My manager was Pete Rose, and I'd been in the minor leagues and called up as a starting pitcher, right? I pitched 3 or 4 games in relief and had done well, hadn't given up on a run at that point. So I'm starting a game in LA against the Dodgers, against Bob Welch. So I come up to the plate first time, I strike out. All right, come back up 4th, 5th inning, whatever it was, for my second AB. And Pete Rose looks at me on the on-deck circle and says, hey, can you bunt? I'm like, sure, I can bunt. I go, but there's nobody on base. He goes, well, I saw your swing. He goes, you might want to try dropping down a bunt. So I go up and I drop down the most beautiful bunt that you could drop down. So I couldn't have rolled the ball down the third baseline any better. And I bust my rear end out of the batter's box. I'm thinking I got an infield single, right? Well, I believe it was Mickey Hatcher's playing third base, comes in, makes the play of his career, throws me out at first base by a half a step. And if I were a little quicker, I'd be a 500 career hitter because I ended up 0 for 2. But that was my story on my slump.
I've got a lot of those. Fifths for fifths.
He was working with a small sample size, though. That's the problem. That's a lot of pressure because you're always going to talk about that. That's all you got. Exactly. Well, Monty, this was great. Thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of this series. Hopefully for your sake and for KC's sake, this one continues. But appreciate the time, man. Good to see you. You bet. I think for baseball's sake, it'd be great if it goes back to the Bronx and let things square off out there. But thanks, Reagan's versus Rodon, Reagan's might have the edge there. So it'll be a good ball game for sure. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Monty. Enjoy it. Right. We'll be right back, FC fam. Take care. I'm just going to jump this one in there too, because that's probably it for us talking Yankees Royals for now, besides this 2-minute little thing here on YouTube. Brian Hoke said he hadn't heard a Yankee booed this loudly in Kansas City since Robinson Cano didn't pick Billy Butler for a home run derby. Do you remember that?
Billy remembered that too.
Did he?
Oh yeah.
Did he say anything? Did he call him? I don't know, because that was when you could pick your team, right? You were a captain, wasn't it? That whole situation.
Yep.
There's a truth there that Billy has the memory of an elephant, but I forget how
memory. I have the nose of an elephant.
Appetite too.
Yeah, Bill was not too pleased about, but Bill was still pretty young. But that was when it was in Kansas City, and he was the Royals' one lone All-Star. It would have been perfect, and he was hitting some dingers, and Bill would have been like, "Well, thanks, Robinson." Like I'm really excited. I'm really excited. And Cano would have been like, "Poppy, I'd rather have some of my buddies on the team." So
yeah, he got denied. That was rough. And then totally different subject, but just answering some fan questions and comments. DM24 in the chat said about our Hunter Pence combo earlier. He said, Farhan Zaidi is the type of guy who you want in your organization because he will find talent to raise the floor of your squad, but not necessarily who you want steering the ship because he gets cute and can't raise the team's ceiling. I actually thought that was pretty interesting. I mean, take it or leave it for what you want from it, but I thought that was interesting. Like, he does find those diamond in the roughs. He's been really good at that for years. I think there are certain GMs and certain front offices that are set up to find them, and that does elevate your floor. But can you get those big deals done and the right big deals done? That's important too. Are you signing the right big players? Are you bringing in the right big players via trades? Kratz is like stewing on that one. So are you, Kip.
I'm stewing because all my mind goes to is, what does this team look like if they actually get Judge? Not talking about the fact that if they actually get Correa. Not talking about the fact, well, that would have never gotten done or whatever. The Yankees wouldn't let it happen. What does this team look like if those things happen? Does Farhan lose his job? The kind of what ifs. If Blake Snell comes out of the gates, fire him.
There's another chance to do that. $600 million for Soto. Whatever the top offer is, go 100 over and put the pressure on.
Giants will be there. You can't tell me they won't be.
They should be. All right, let's get into this game 4 and spin it forward to game 5. The Dodgers annihilate the Padres in this game 4. And I know we'll get to Detroit and Cleveland a little bit later on, but Kip, I thought there were 2 perfect games in that 4-gamer yesterday, the last 4-gamer that we'll have during the season. AJ Hinch bullpen management, Dave Roberts bullpen management. The only slight tick I could go against Doc is that he used Blake Trinan late in the game where I felt like it wasn't worth giving them another look at him because he's probably their top or definitely top 2 or 3 relievers, and you need him for game 5. I don't like guys seeing the same reliever over and over again in a series. We've talked about this. But other than that, I mean, using Kopech in the 3rd inning, for example, it's like, I'm not screwing around right now. Take this in the 3rd, right? And Hinch obviously was great too with like Bo Brisky, who's been closing out games. He's popping up in the middle of the game. But anyway, for LA, how shocking was this takedown in San Diego after all that they were going through? And they looked like they were on the ropes based on the roster construction too. Like, you don't have starters. Your best guys, or some of them are hurt, right? Mookie was kind of slumping still. Freddie Freeman's hurt. And then this.
I'm never going to say Dodgers winning a game is shocking. Because I mean, still with the roster that they have, it's still they should be winning most games. I think, but when you look at the managers, AJ Hinch, you said, and Dave Roberts, there's a lot of experience and a lot of playoff games under their belts already of how to do that. I think Hinch with Houston a bunch, and that is a very, very, cannot be understated, valuable asset to have as a manager who knows how to work his bullpen, who knows when to push the right buttons, when to use guys, save guys, when to bring them in, how early. and comparatively, you have Stephen Vogt in Cleveland, who hasn't done it yet. This is his first time around as a manager. And so you can either actually question a few decisions he's made a little bit. It doesn't matter, though, if their team can't score runs, which they're not right now. But you look at the way, I think those were I'm going to focus more on the Dodgers one, is just what a statement game to be like, hey, Padres had all the momentum, all the stuff that was happening. The average fan was probably getting on the Padres side as like as an underdog, as a new underdog, and had stuff throwing at them. Like, they had the fans on their side, and it's like, what a statement game to put your foot down and be like, hey, we're still the Dodgers, we're not going anywhere. So I think that game really was a message sent, which makes for just such an exciting Game 5 here.
I mean, I don't want this off day. I know the players are excited about it, and I know they have to travel such a long distance from from San Diego to LA, but they're still caught in traffic from last night, by the way. But like, to me, I hated it. I hated the fact that a bullpen game was so successful, because I want the starting pitchers. I want teams to have that solidified starting rotation for Game 5. Like, think about Tarek Skubal pitching in a Game 5 against the Guardians. Like, that is awesome. Like, I want to see that. I want Shane Bieber to go up against Tarek Skubal for Game 5. I want Tyler Glasnow to go up against prime Yu Darvish in Game 5 of this series. But we're not going to get it. And I'm watching that game, and I'm watching the Guardians-Tigers game. Like, the Guardians, they use Voter getting his steps in. He's checking his Apple Watch like, yep, only they get 500 more steps. Time to get a new reliever. And I think they did an awesome job. I think the managers did an awesome job. But as you move to Game 5, you would be remiss to sit there and go, well, we kind of want Yamamoto. He's given up, I think, 9 runs now against the Dodgers in 3 starts, including the postseason. Like, okay, I guess we're not going to Yamamoto. We go to Flaherty on short rest. Am I right? Am I right? He's on short rest if he would throw?
About 4 days, I think.
No, I think he's regular rest, right?
He's regular? Okay, so both are available, but you just dominated a lineup that has been rocking. They have been rocking. And they not only did they we kept them to 3 runs. That's a win. They shut them down. They shut them down, and they were all healthy. There's a team that should have been shut down. It's the Dodgers. They didn't have one of their big pieces in the lineup. Shohei Ohtani has stolen less bases than Giancarlo Stanton. Like, Mookie Betts, he finally got his home run. Is he going to continue? And they shut that lineup down. So if you're Dave Roberts, why do you not go? If you're the Dodgers, why do you not go to a bullpen game and maybe in the 9th or 10th or 15th inning, then you go to Yamamoto or Flaherty?
Yeah. Or you can use them as relievers. I mean, I think Jack Flaherty coming in for 1 inning. The thing with Flaherty, all the sabermetricians, all the analytics people have talked about how the difference with Flaherty is when his velocity is popping. Like, it's such a difference. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Kratz, where they show him over 94 and under 94 on his fastball. And it's been running for a couple of years. I think it changed a little bit down the stretch here. But, I mean, if he's coming out and he's got an extra few miles an hour on his heater for an inning, I don't hate that. So we'll see. I mean, maybe they get crafty. It's 1 game to win it all. On the other side, Dylan Cease on short rest was a bust. And it's not just Cease, it was the usage to me. So you're going to go short with him, okay, but you were about to take him out. You leave him in for Ohtani, which is a bad matchup for him. Bring in a reliever, whether it's a Morahone for the matchup advantage there. Nobody's really a matchup advantage, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that move was weird, and it's almost always unsuccessful. I think now it's like 64 and 91 in the past, few decades of going on short rest with your starter. And it's even more emphasized now because guys just don't get handled that way. So I thought they were outmanaged, really. And obviously it was a blowout, but I do think they were outmanaged in terms of the way that they game planned this one.
I think the number's a little bit higher. I think it's like 72 and 92, something like that like short rest, but I'd have to look it up.
No, it was 64 and 90 going into last night. I know that. So 64 and 91, but I don't know when it's going until, right? Yours, I think they were going back to like the early 90s or whatever, right? But I do think the way that they operated, and I know they don't have Musgrove now, so this would have been, easier to lay out if you have the extra starter, but like just save Cease for the next game if you were going to handle it this way.
That's why I'm not sure. Like, I didn't feel like Cease was so dominant going into this start. Like, oh, we just need him on, like a Wheeler. Like, oh, we need Wheeler on short rest. I would have gotten that, and even to the point where you can't let him face. Like, if he's done what he's done and he gets back to Ohtani, to me, you can't let him face him. Just like I didn't think Rob Thompson should have left Ranger Suarez out there as long as he did. It worked out. He trusted it. Ranger came up with 8 punch-outs somehow, dancing through raindrops. But I completely agree. I feel like they reached, but then they not only did they reach, it was like they were like, oh, we're going to try to get a little bit more out of it. It seemed weird to me. Both those moves in two separate coasts.
And I know Darvish is the kryptonite for now for the Dodgers. So he was going game 5. I get it. But I just thought it was a weird setup for them. It didn't work out well. And then last layer here, Jeremiah Estrada has been an awesome story, right? I mean, he's bounced around, diamond in the rough, fine for the Padres, part of that dominant bullpen. And he's from LA, big Dodger fan. So I encourage you to read all of the comments. But I will pick out what he ultimately said, because apparently he was talking for almost half hour with the media about how disappointed he was with the situation in LA with some fans throwing stuff. And we commented, I at least did, and said the way that they handled it with the PA announcement, like, oh, if you throw stuff, you might get ejected, was wrong and soft, and they needed to be harder about it. But this quote goes way too far. Estrada said, if I was the commissioner of baseball, I wouldn't even allow a game 5 at their place, when he was talking about, like it says in this article, 20 minutes about the beer cans, the bottles, baseballs being thrown on the field. He said, I mean, why? Why would you want to test that to happen again? Jeremiah, come on, dude. You can't just ban a ballpark for a few rotten eggs. Otherwise, let's say you did that. Let's play that out for 10 seconds here. You know what happens? The Dodgers send a few fans dressed in Padres gear over to San Diego, and they chuck stuff on the field. And then what? That ballpark's on the cross-off list too? It's a ridiculous comment. The real answer is, hey, that was awful what happened. It is unacceptable. And I hope that all of those people get handled and never allowed in a ballpark again and maybe prosecuted, because that could hurt someone. Got to get rid of all of that crap. But Kip, I mean, it was a senseless comment. I was trying to figure out a way to make that make sense, but I think his words just slipped in terms of what his idea was. Because what are you talking about? You're going to ban Dodger Stadium from hosting playoff games because 10 out of 50,000 fans were being jerks?
Yeah, good thing you're not the commissioner of baseball, Estrada. That's what we'll say. The teams can meet in Sacramento. I hear they have a nice field.
Well,
right.
Well done, Kip.
Would love to host a playoff game. Like I said, when we talked about this series earlier, the emotions are running high. The cities, fans are invested. Teams are obviously invested. But you nailed it. Do not let the actions of a few affect the whole sum here. There has been bad blood between these two teams. You kind of see it. We post the fights when we see them break out in the stadium sometimes, and usually these two stadiums, and sometimes you might even throw the Giants in there as well, I guess, for that. But listen, that needs to be handled internally. We've got enough cameras around ballparks where I think you ban whoever threw it. I think that's the easiest motion to do. That just, you're not allowed at this ballpark anymore. And if it's worth it and it becomes known and you make it known, where it's like, hey, if I throw something, I am giving up my right and privilege to come see a game here for the rest of the time. So if it's worth it and you're still going to do that, because there's still going to be idiots out there. There's always going to be idiots out there. But no, that's just, you're not going to take away a home field advantage, something that over an entire season that the team worked for and earned and all this stuff. And we're not going to change it just because a few idiots threw a couple things. Are they idiots? They are idiots. But it's, like I said, it's an emotional statement, I think. And I bet he would reword it differently if you gave him a mic again.
Kip can attest to this. Playing in the playoffs, you played in Yankee Stadium. I'm not sure what other places you played in, but I've been to so many different stadiums. During the playoffs, my family has gone to these games. If you make if you make judgments based on fans' reactions towards your family, towards you as a player, the playoffs, everything is so heightened. Game 1 in Baltimore, people started throwing water bottles into the family section, the Royals family section in Baltimore, after Moose hit, I think it was game 1 where Moose hit the homer, to put us up in extra innings. And, They talked about it with us. Teams are aware of this stuff. In no way are we not going to go back and play game 2. In no way are we not going to even, not take our family. But you're aware that this is a thing, and this is just what happens in the playoffs. I don't condone it at all, because there is 49,993 other fans in the stands that are there to enjoy it. And if you can't handle them getting on you, that's one thing. But Major League Baseball needs to keep these players safe. So don't worry about, like, they're not gonna not play at a stadium. It was good time to have a mic in front of you, but I think he would probably walk back his statements.
Kratz, would this not be accurate where, again, if your safety's never in jeopardy, which it shouldn't be as a player, you're there to play a game, they are there to cheer on a game, that line should never be crossed. I think that's fairly simple at this point. It should be known. That being said, like, the amount of names, whether it's derogatory, whatever names come up. When I played in New York and Chicago, Toronto, Boston, I played playoff series, all these places. The things I've been called, I can't even repeat on this show. But it makes it, as long as it's verbal, as long as it's not like a death threat where it's like, hey, I'm telling you your address and I'm going to be there, like, that's crossing the line too. But if it's just like, you suck, you're blah, 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 I hope you suck, and like whatever, that's part of the playoff experience. And it's awesome. And that's a home field advantage. When you have fans who are rowdy and into it, it's incredible. It makes for a better atmosphere. It makes for a better home field advantage. I'm not saying cross any line. I'm just saying the loudness of it and the brash and the, like, just in your face about it. When you come out victorious, though, that's why it's such a good feeling. It's like, you're like, I just beat that team, but I also beat that city, in the same sense where it's like I came out victorious after going up against that. So it's part of the playoff experience, and I think it's an awesome part, as long as lines are not crossed. And there are certain lines. Throwing stuff on the field is one of those lines that should not be crossed.
Kip was playing center field in Yankee Stadium. They were chanting. You and I were talking. I was in the bullpen, and they were chanting some girl's name. I don't know if it was your girlfriend at the time, what the deal was, but they found something out on social media, and the whole bleacher creatures were just chanting her name. And you turned around and you did so good. You were like, they were just chanting.
And then it's like, I mean, I've had that in college. I've had like where I've thrown a ball, like you see, whether it's a girl who like knows you or someone, you throw it up to someone, some fan, some lady, and you start walking back, and I've seen the ball kind of whiz by my head, and like the boyfriend's in like a follow through or something, in New York especially has just been absurd with what they've said. Boston as well. They get after you, and they do not hold back, and it's like they do not wait. As soon as they see you or your jersey number or anything, they are trying to distract you and talk to you. And I'm fine with that part. There are certain parts they can cross the line verbally, like I said, where there's death threats or they come out with your home address or something like that. That's too much. But if it's trying to distract you, that's a home field advantage. That's the fun part of a good crowd that you have on your side. So I think it's all part of the game. I say just keep it in between the lines. Keep the game, the fans.
And MLB needs to police it. Right, yeah. We're not banning ballparks; we're banning fans.
Cameras, not to find out who did it, who threw it, and to make an example of them. I think that's easy.
Exactly. All right, so quick break. Then we'll do picks and locks, and then the Twins are being sold. Yes, the Minnesota Twins are for sale. Woo! All right, FT fam, we want to shout out the Playmakers Classic right now that is coming up in February. And you're like, why are we talking about it now? Because you got to make your plans for spring training. You got to make them early. You guys know the deal. Arizona in February is the hottest place to be that month. That's a fact with how much is going on there.
Not temperature-wise. That wasn't a play on words, but it's beautiful in February.
I'm not that good. Yeah.
Waste Management opens there. Like all those, it's a blast around then.
Exactly. So here's an event that you need to be a part of, the Playmakers Classic presented by Fanatics. 15% off individual tickets when you use the code Playmakers FT. But the list of players that have been there in the past and that will continue to attend this event is super high. So if you want access to players, to say hello, to play some table games with them, right? There's some action going on there. There's incredible food, drinks, the whole deal. Everything is donated to the event to make it pristine. It is one of the jewel events of the year. Go check it out. And of course, it goes for a very good cause. This is a charitable cause. And this is why the players put so much into putting this together. This is spring training too, Kratz. This is spring training time for them. And they take the time out during, right before exhibition games start to head out and have a night.
It was exciting. I mean, when we went last year, it was in January. Was it
January?
November?
It was in December in Vegas, but now they're bringing it to the spring training.
Vegas.
The spring training site in Arizona.
It's a pro. I call it a party, but I mean it's a whole event. It's a pro event. They do it right. They really do, and it's for a good cause. And there's some big time players there too.
Yep, it'll be in downtown Phoenix. We'll give you more details, every other week as we get more information. So make sure you check that out. 3 hours of nonstop action, live performances, games, tastings, make your own fan gear, all kinds of giveaways, the whole deal. Yes, I'm told the cake pops there last time were elite. And it all is for a good cause, supporting youth across the country and the world, providing access to cutting edge academic and athletic programs. So playerstrust.org. That's playerstrust.org, code PlaymakersFT to go check out how you can get tickets. BetMGM locks. We'll speed through because we also want to talk money with the Minnesota Twins for sale, which is going to be awesome. So tough day yesterday for us besides Todd Father riding the hot hand. That's why he's been so good this year going with the Metropolitans. There's your money bags. And I'll start because I'll make it quick. I've got 1.5 total bases smacking it over for Juan Soto this evening, and it's at plus 120. I've got him maybe getting another double against Waka like you did in game one. Otherwise, for Soto, I think he can get to the bullpen. I think he'll be a little more pressed for aggressiveness. I know he's still going to probably mix in a walk in this game, but he had a really, was it in the first inning? He had a really nice swing that got stopped by the wind. There were a couple bullets from Soto, Judge. Some of the boys were going pretty long in KC. I know it's Kaufman, so it doesn't carry the same way, but I'll go put down a hundo, see if I can get myself 120. Kip, you're up.
I'm banking on the Guardians bats waking up a little bit, but also I'm taking the over in the game of 6.5 runs. I just think there's going to be enough runs scored. There's a lot of pressure on them to perform. They're trying so hard. They've had 20 scoreless innings, so I think they're going to do anything to get that first one across, and I think that's going to break the dam open. And then Detroit's going to add a few in there too. So I got over 6.5, 550 to win 500, minus 110. Big boy.
Right.
Scare money don't make
Salvador Perez over 1.5 total bases for plus 140. Garrett Cole doesn't want to pitch around guys, and Salvi hits a lot of balls, so he'll nibble the corners. But Salvi, you need to expand more with Salvi. So Salvi, give me a little double, a little 2 base knocks, maybe even dinger tonight. Who knows?
I'm desperately looking quickly to see stolen base numbers to see if I can find what Giancarlo Stanton's at, but I don't know if I'll find it in time, if he's even on the list.
You want to bet on something else? The numbers are a little steep right now. G, when he's on a heater like this, I saw it in 2020. He can absolutely carry a team, and the way he's hitting the ball and his takes, woof. You might want to throw a little something down on Big G.
There you go. BetMGM Sportsbook account holders, if you opt into the bullpen jackpot promotion, then you get yourself a chance at a share of a daily $50,000 BetMGM bullpen jackpot. If the player that you pick for a home run, you got to go at least $10 on the home run prop. If they land that homer in an MLB team bullpen, prizing gets paid out in bonus bets that expire in 7 days. You can either win the $50,000 daily prize and bonus bets or a share of that if other people win too. Go check it out. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Be right back to go over how much we think the Twins are going to get sold for and free the Twins from the cheapness. Finally! All right, here we go. Let's talk about Detroit and Cleveland. That game is coming up soon. So, it's something that gets dated pretty quickly, but we'll give it to the crowd here. Sean in the chat said since 1997, Cleveland is 0-12 in playoff elimination games. Did you know that, Kip?
I was aware of some of
Okay.
it.
I promised him I'd ask. That's what we do in this show, even if it pisses people off, like Kip.
Yeah.
Wound.
That wasn't all you, dude.
Gosh.
You're one human in an organization that has spanned for decades.
Yeah, I only covered like 3 of those, I think.
Ooh, I did not realize that. All right, so are things going to change for them? Are they going to be able to pull this off with Bibee back on the mound?
I hope so, because like we just talked about, like Kratz was saying, I'd love to see a Tariq Skubal Game 5 just for the baseball fans, for everybody, and just Cleveland going up there. I just want to see them get their confidence going and get that W tonight, to where anything can happen in a Game 5, Game 7 type atmosphere. A winner take in advance. Yes, Erik.
Kip, we don't care what you hope. What is going to happen?
Yeah, are the bats going to wake the hell up? Because then not only need to do that, but Skubal's going to go 12 in Game 5.
Say it with your chest.
I did. I put money where my mouth is. It's my bet tonight that it's going to be the over of the game. So
You have the over. That's not you choosing.
it's going to be a Detroit blowout.
Detroit 8-2.
No, Cleveland ties it up today.
I will say the Detroit offense looks at least level with Cleveland's offense. I know Cleveland had a day in Game 1, but they need to wake the hell up.
Haven't scored in 20 innings. It's not saying much.
No, it's been a thing for them for years. Like where are the timely hits? Where's the pop?
Yeah, there really is, and it does that we were talking about. I think because baseball is such a rhythm sport that this isn't an excuse. Is what we're just talking about though. With the delay off, it just throws off rhythm and timing, and the wild card teams come in having not taken they're still in their momentum, they're still in their normal routine, and then they also now. They feel more confident and more comfortable because they've just won a wild card series. So even these young guys with Detroit, it's like they feel great going into the series while Cleveland has just sat around for a little bit, trying to stay like game ready. So that is a real thing. Now you're getting into there's still a little repetition of the season, kind of where it reminds you of it. So I'm hoping this is the day where they break loose.
Mm-hmm.
They've seen them a lot. They've seen the bullpen a lot. You can't see a starter 3 times, but you can see a bullpen 4 times.
Okay.
This was me this morning with my Huel bottle. Let's go, baby. Let's go. I saw it. I was like, bam. I did not expect the Minnesota Twins to be for sale. There's a few other rumblings of teams that I've heard could be up for sale this offseason. I did not see this one coming, but I do think some humans have a heart and say, I am crushing my family's legacy, which is a good one in other senses, but I cannot continue to be known as the cheapskate in town. Joe Pohlad, who has essentially taken over as the owner of the Twins, the son of the billionaire family, announced, quote, their intent to explore a sale of the Minnesota Twins. Quote, our family reached a decision this summer to explore selling the Twins as we enter the next phase of this process. The time is right to make this decision public. Pay the man his money to get the heck out of here, because enough. What a freaking disaster that just happened. And it should mostly be put on what they did between last year's playoff series loss and where we are right now. They said, let's scale back hardcore because we're poor. That is crap. You know what you do when you feel that way and then the entire town thinks you're a jerk? You sell the damn team and get your money. Get out of our sport. That was such crap. You made a ton of money in the playoffs, and then you came up with BS excuses in the offseason for why you should lower your payroll by $30 million when your team's in a winning window. Way to really just shove it in the face of your players. But it's okay. They were saving all that money for the trade deadline. Nope. They had no budget for their front office at the trade deadline. They told them, call teams and tell them they have to take on all the money for you to make a trade with a big player. Yeah, good luck with that phone call. What a jerk. Get out of the sport.
Let him know. Let him know, Scotty.
It's not fair to Minnesota. Get out of the sport. Sell the damn team.
Yeah, I will absolutely, and Erik can attest to this too. You can't ever publicly say it in the same way that Hunter was talking about earlier, where it's like, now that we're out of the game, we have to be the ones to say it for them. Players would be pissed off. If you know, and the ones that have been there for a few years, and you know your ownership is not, when you think you're in the window, you are in the window because you just had a playoff run, and your ownership's not going to go out and help you. Not only are they not going to go out and help you, but they're going to deduct from your roster. You're pissed off as a player, and you're already trying to find your way out of that franchise. It sucks. It sucks.
All we heard was they couldn't add to payroll because, bad RSN, all this regional stuff. Well, that would mean that your franchise is down in value, right? So this wouldn't be a good time to sell. Oh, wait a minute. Plot twist. They're selling because their value of the franchise couldn't be higher. They were just looking to trim the edges off this summer, they found out. Wouldn't it be, if you really wanted to win, and we just saw it, I think, like 2 weeks ago, he had all the quotes from Aaron Gleeman, was putting out the quotes about how, business decisions for the business, decisions for the future. If this is your last year of owning a team, which they hope if somebody finds, they find the right price, wouldn't you be like, let's go all in? Trade deadline, let's get everything. We were in the playoffs last year. We've been up and down this year. Let's go all in. We got this. I'm going out with a ring, and we're selling the team after the year. But no, They were like, no thanks.
If you were a baller, that's what you would do. But if the only words that come out of your mouth are business, revenue, and portfolio, which is how Joe Pohlad was operating, and Gleeman absolutely freaking cooked and crushed him on the back and forth questioning because all he could talk about, business, portfolio, revenue. Yeah, he dropped all of the numbers down so that he could make the books look even better for a sale. He probably knew this was coming for a while. Took an absolute reputation smash. I will say, at least there are humans on this planet, billionaires, that say, you know what? It's not worth it. Like Bob Nutting, who says, I'm just going to wear it and just not look at newspapers, not look at social media, all that crap, right? And just collect my $30+ million in profit like Mark Cuban said he does collect. For the Pohlads, he was like, we're billionaires. We don't need that kind of money. I don't want to smash the family reputation here anymore for being the cheapest people in town. It's just a bad look. So good for them to get out of the sport. Just get out of the sport. We don't want you here. If you can't afford to handle a team, or in your brain you can't afford to spend the money because you want to see the paychecks come through, just leave. Go into waste management with your portfolio. There's other places to go to. Don't piss off an entire city. You got a new ballpark so that you could spend more commensurate with how the league is spending. And what happens? They are spending, in terms of their ranks of payroll, exactly how they were when they had the Metrodome. They freaking scammed the city into thinking that they were going to spend more and take care of this team. And they had the chance to do that finally. And he absolutely crapped the bed. So I'm just a little excited about it.
John Fisher.
Exactly. Some people just don't care, right? They're going down swinging and they're like, everyone can hate me and I don't care. But good for Joe Pohlad. Get out of our sport. I'm so sick of operators like this. And we are cleaning this up. Usually, as someone new comes into our sport, it makes our sport better. Not every time, but usually. Like we went from John Angelos to this new ownership group in Baltimore. It's super new. We don't know yet, but I will bet a lot of money that it will be a better experience. They're going to take care of the fans differently. They're going to speak well. They're going to spend a little bit better or a lot better, right? In Baltimore, John Angelos was kind of falling apart. He was bottom 3 ownership group. Obviously, the Mets improved drastically. Zach Wheeler couldn't even, as a member of the team, get into the ballpark without paying in the playoffs because of how Jeff Wilpon was treating people. He gone. Now we have Steve Cohen. Like, we are getting better as a sport. I know I sound passionate. I'm going after people, but I'm doing that because there are better human beings that want to be part of ownership groups. Joe LaCobe, or however you say his name, out in the San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland area, wants to take over the Oakland A's, or has at least publicly stated it. Obviously, that would have been a massive upgrade. He owns the freaking Warriors. Look at how he turned that team around.
How did you just physically, pat him on the back and kick him in the butt out of the door on the same sense, the same rant.
Because I said, thank you for acknowledging that you suck. Get out of our sport.
Here's a pat on the back. Yeah, the last part. Get out of the room.
Good job, and you gone. I don't feel bad. You woke up, right? Or you were born into this world as a freaking billionaire, and you get to own a team. Like, take your money and run. This is not for you. This job is not for you.
I love it.
I would do some crazy things if I owned a team, and people be asking me, I'd be like, because I'm rich and I'm crazy. That's why I did it.
Yeah, Jackie Moon.
Jackie Moon, owner, player, and coach.
So good. So yeah, we'll see what happens with the Twins. Obviously, you got to make sure that the steward who takes over is better, right? I mean, that's up to MLB to vet that process. MLB knows the deal. They know they have some bad actors. They have to listen to those actors, but then they do have a big say in who they bring in next. So hopefully they're able to work with them and say, hey, let's bring in somebody who actually cares about the community, doesn't just talk business, revenue, portfolio in every freaking sentence, likes baseball, right? Like, this should be a qualification. Are you going to come to the games? Do you care? Do you like the sport? That stuff is all, a big part of it.
Can John Middleton own another team? Can John Middleton buy another team and just have an American League team and a National League team and be like, I want my two teams playing against each other?
Feel better?
Yeah, I just came out of the bullpen throwing 108. I'm just out of gas.
I want to slap hands with Scotty right there. That's just therapeutic for you today.
Thank you. I needed that.
You look like you're calmer. That was good though.
That was 10 years of angst. That was 10 years of angst to build up. Scotty always hearing the same thing from his old bosses, like, don't talk about owners that way. Scott's like, it's not all the owners. It's not all the owners.
No,
and we have this week. We'll see you next week for the same.
We have some great ones. We have some crappy ones, and we're out of here for the TV crowd. See everyone. Actually, for the YouTube crowd too. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Nope, just kidding. We are on. Sorry. I messed up. Dodgers territory is coming up next. So we have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I told you I ran out of gas. Like they gave me one inning and that was all I had. I was waiting.
Don't try to get 4 outs out of Scott. Don't try to get 4 outs out of Scott. He comes in. Some pitchers, Scotty, come in out of the bullpen or come in after their outing and they're giving high fives and shaking hands with the manager. Some pitchers come in and they're like, no, I want the ball still. Scotty, he was giving high fives. He was shaking. He went up to the manager and be like, thanks, Skip. I'm done.
That's because my arm's dislocated. That's why they're like, he literally gave it his all. His arm fell off. But think about this.
Has 3 hitters.
The global perspective of this is how much sports means to so many human beings and to communities, right? Like an ownership change can change lives because of how people will be excited about how you can have more playoff baseball. You can just have happier people. Like Minneapolis is angry right now over the past year. They all were calling out the situation in the offseason. It played out exactly how everyone said it was going to, or how many said it was going to, with depth concerns down the stretch based on them getting rid of players. Then the trade deadline shut out. The whole thing was just adding up. It was so obvious. So anyway, we all feel much better now. So Dodgers territory, that ownership group is on the thumbs up list. 15, there's like 15 good, 15 bad, somewhat, give or take. And that show is coming up next. The post-game show was wild yesterday. So we'll have a good time with Clint and Alana taking over in about a minute. And make sure you get involved in that one. It'll be a big audience. And if you're watching on FT right now, it'll automatically take you to Dodgers territory as part of the FT network. Good show, Kip. Good to see you, dude. Enjoy the rest of the postseason. Good luck to your guards.
I appreciate it.
They need it. And FT fam, thank you. We will see everyone on Friday. Todd Father's back on Friday. I'll be there with him. So Kratz, who you got tonight?
Who you got?
Royals and Guardians, because I want to see 2 Game 5s.
Nice. Betting with your heart.
Tad Brandon, I'm also cheering for the Tigers.
We out.
I look good in orange.
We all do.